Hey, what's up, everybody? Chicago Goonie here, bringing another Arsenal talk. In this Arsenal talk, I'll be covering the North London Derby. Well, dropped points, lost the game. Uh, Plenty of concerns. Plenty of reasons, I guess you should say, rather than concerns of why we lost the game. Um, we went up 1-0 early in the game with Mesut Ozil goal, which was just, it's a beautiful sequence between Danny Welbeck and Giroud and Ozil's, volley right in the top right hand corner, which was just, it's a beautiful goal. Uh, Seems like we were going to play defensive almost right away. You could see it. You could see that we were going to play that defensive counter-attacking football, like we kind of did with the Man City game. The big difference between the Man City game uh, and this game against Spurs was the fact that we just couldn't keep possession. At least in the Man City game, we could keep possession. This game, we played so defensive. It's okay to play defensive, especially away from home, trying to have, like we say, like a plan B finally. It's okay to play that way. It's okay if it works. Uh, but it's not okay when you pretty much suffocate yourself. You keep on, making bad pass and giving the ball away and not keeping possession and not be able to, uh, you know, make them work a little bit harder. Because Spurs didn't really need to work hard at all defensively against us. All they had to really do was press high, and they were going to get the ball back. Especially when Aaron Ramsey was on the ball, especially when Santi was on the ball. You can blame this loss on those two guys. Uh, the midfield was a disaster between those two. They just, you know, I mean, honestly, I would love to see the stats on those two guys of how many times they gave the ball away. How many, their passing accuracy had to be below 50%, honestly. I mean, that's how bad they were throughout the whole game. Um, how Aaron Ramsey stayed on the pitch the entire game, I don't get it. Um, the first goal even was on him. He fell asleep. The first Harry Kane goal on the set piece, um, he fell asleep. He was just watching the ball. You watched the replay. Harry Kane was his mark. He fell asleep. He was just watching the ball. Harry Kane had, I mean, he was just standing there, wide open, almost like waiting for the ball to come to him. And he had, it was an easy, it was a striker's goal. It was just like standing there waiting for the ball to come to him. All he had to do was kick it. That was it. He didn't really even need to really aim it because everybody was so far out of position anyway. And Aaron Ramsey just stood there and watched it. The second goal, I mean, you couldn't really do much about that. I mean, it was just a looping cross into the box. Koscielny could have been possibly a little bit tighter to Harry Kane, but by the time the cross was, came in, it was just that high looping cross that sometimes it's hard to judge. I'm not going to give, Koscielny that much leeway, but yeah, he could have been a little bit tighter to him to the point that Harry Kane just didn't. He basically had a free header. He could have had it anywhere he wanted to because, I think, Ospina was pretty much banking on Koscielny to be tight to him, and he just wasn't. So there was nothing they could really do about that. That was just, uh, caught with your britches down, I guess you could say. You see that a lot in football, regardless of how good defensive are and everything. But if you look at that sequence again, Aaron Ramsey was right in front of the Spurs player, and he just kind of stood there, watched him, you know, make that cross, and it's no one went out there and challenged him. You saw that a lot uh, during the entire game. You just didn't, you know, I, it was so different from the Man City game where Aaron Ramsey was pressing so high up the pitch that it left our right side completely just bare. Uh, you know, Bellerin was pretty much almost left on an island by himself, trying to deal with the likes of Erickson and Rose, especially through the first half. Luckily, Welbeck got back here and there when he could, um, but it was just a terrible game from start to finish for Aaron Ramsey. Um, I mean, I don't, I there's you can't defend him. I mean, this was like Aaron Ramsey from like the 12 and 13 season, to where he would just give the ball away constantly. Uh, even little dink passes. I mean, it was just awful. It was just his passing was just awful. Same with Santi. I mean, Santi was just as bad. Not as bad as Aaron Ramsey, but he was right up there. I mean, he was pretty much invisible throughout the entire game. Um, it was yeah, the midfield is what lost us the game, plain and simple. The substitutions, I thought, uh, came too late. Once Rosicky did come onto the pitch, we were able to maintain possession a little bit better. But again, once Aaron Ramsey got on the ball, it just nullified everything. It just slowed everything down. It just killed everything, and then we were back on our heels once again. I felt sorry for our best players. I can't believe that Welbeck was taken out of the game. To be honest with you, Aaron Ramsey and Santi should have been the first two that got pulled, but of course somehow Ramsey stayed on the pitch. He should have been taken off. Uh, they should have just left Welbeck on. Um, they could have brought Rosicky and Theo on at the same time. Leave Welbeck on the wing, push Theo out on the wing, push Mesut Ozil as the number 10, and push Rosicky at the CM. But again, it was just poor management, poor substitutions by Arsene Wenger. Um, the game plan was there. Obviously, we were going to try to do the same exact thing as the Man City game, but like I said, the difference between the Man City game and this game, we were able to hold possession. We were able to pass the ball fluidly, and hold possession. I think even our possession stats were a lot better in the Man City game than this game. I mean, I would I'd be shocked if we had 35%, to be honest with you. That's just how bad. That's how many times we just gave the ball away over and over again. Our best players on the pitch were Welbeck, uh, Ozil, and Nacho Monreal. I mean, those three guys, especially Monreal. Monreal played his ass off today. He was our best defender. He was just everywhere. He really, uh, you know, kept Lalana, or not Lalana, Lamella, like in his pocket pretty much the entire time. They had like no width whatsoever. Monreal was just really closing everything down. That's another thing about today, that we weren't going after 50-50 balls at all. No one was going after him except for Coughlin a few times, and then Monreal was like the only person who was really going after 50-50 balls. Where Spurs were just on top of everything and trying to go after it. And anytime you saw kind of like an Arsenal player trying to go after a 50 ball, they would just hold up and let the Spurs player regain possession instead of challenging them and trying to get the ball back, or trying to make the Spurs player make a quick reaction, or a bad pass or something to try to get the ball back in our possession. So all in all, it was just a terrible game in the midfield, and that's what lost us for it. It wasn't the back four. It wasn't anything that Coughlin couldn't do anything differently. The back four couldn't do anything differently. It was all Aaron Ramsey and Santi pretty much throughout the entire game. Um, and again, the substitutions were wrong um, at the wrong times, I thought. Also, someone needs to tell. Olivier Giroud, he's a good striker, but someone needs to tell him that he is a striker, not a number 10, not a midfielder. Um, there's so many times in games where he just decides to pass the ball instead of just taking the ball down and taking a strike and taking a shot. There was one possession at the end of the game, or near the end of the game, where he tried to head the ball to, I believe it was Rosicky or Ozil or something, who was trying to make a run. or maybe even Theo. I forgot what it was. All he had to do was take it down with his chest and take a shot, but he decides to pass instead. Someone needs to tell him that he's a striker, not a distributor or number 10. It's kind of it's just kind of annoying to say the least. Sometimes when he's playing, to where he's just trying to act too unselfishly when strikers need to act selfishly at most of the time. If that was uh, if that was Sanchez, if that was even Danny Welbeck, I'm pretty sure they would just take it down and try to take a shot themselves. And Giroud just doesn't do that enough. That's what holds him back from being possibly even a great striker. To be honest with you, is times like that. Times in games where he should just take the ball down and take a shot. Get a shot on target. While Lloris was good the entire game, uh, again, you just never know what's going to happen. There's plenty of times where Spurs could have had an extra second chance because of a parry from Ospina, but no one was there to take it. With Arsenal, that's those are the type of chances we need to take. But again, I mean, even after we scored our first goal, from that point on, it was all Spurs for the next what 86 minutes, 87 minutes or something, whatever of the game. And it got to the point to where even when it was 1-1, it was just kind of like, God, we don't deserve a point from this because we're suffocating ourselves, we're killing ourselves. Um, you know, again, that midfield was just awful. I can't believe how a person can play that bad in Aaron Ramsey and stay on the pitch for as long as he did. He should have been taken off. Even if he subbed in Flamini, I would have took him over Aaron Ramsey at any point in time during uh, during the game because he was just awful. Um, it's there's been a lot of that this year from Aaron Ramsey, and I know a lot of it. In the beginning of the year, it was kind of like he was hampered with injuries somewhat. Sometimes it seems like sometimes he's more concerned what's going on off the pitch than what's going on the pitch. And today this was probably one of his worst games that I've seen him play in some time, probably since the 12 and 13 season, to where he was just that awful. He was the worst player on the pitch. He was basically the man of the match for Spurs. I know Harry Kane scored 2 goals, but you could say Aaron Ramsey was their man of the match because that's how many times he gave the ball away. That's how many times he just didn't know where his surroundings were. He didn't know where he wanted to pass the ball. He didn't know what he wanted to even do with the ball when he got the ball. And then of course with Santi, he was just other than the one shot that he had, he was invisible. He wasn't injecting himself into the game whatsoever. He wasn't trying to uh, take on defenders. His passing again, just as bad as Aaron Ramsey's. And when you're number 10 and when your CM are that bad, I don't care what kind of talent you have, uh, you're going to lose. You're eventually going to lose. Um, of course, you have one of the best number 10s playing it in the world on the left wing, to where you could have just made an easy substitution, take Aaron Ramsey out. Should have been the first one out. Put Theo on, even put Rosicky in. They should have been both taken out at the same time. Uh, for Arsene Wenger not to uh, identify those were the two problems on the pitch for us, and not to take those two guys out at the same time and put some new blood in there and put some new energy into the game, like a Theo Walcott, who is always up for these games, who's always energized for these games, who always wants to play these games. Um, it, again, it's one of those things. Arsene Wenger, too much trust in his players. You know, there's times where you have to be brutal. If a player's not playing well, take his ass out. Just don't depend. Well, he's gonna fight through it. No, not in a game like this. not in a North London derby, which means so much, especially to the fans. I mean, we could have won this game. If we won this game, we could have been top four, maybe even possibly, on goal differential if Southampton wins, today or tomorrow. I forgot when they play. I think they play today, possibly tomorrow. I don't even know. Uh, but again, huge game. We just didn't step up, plain and simple. The quality that we had on the pitch, uh, the lineup that we had out there, uh, it's a side that can beat just about anybody, especially in the Premier League. But for some reason, guys didn't show up to play. They were just on their F game instead of their A game, and that's just another cause for concern. Where I stressed this early in the season, where Arsene Wenger just has way too much confidence in his players. He's just more like a friend than a manager sometimes. Uh, to be a good manager, to continue to be a good manager, you need to be brutal. You need to say, well, you know what, you suck. Get off the pitch. We're going to put someone else in who's going to be better. You know, again, the substitutions were late, wrong. If you were going to take Danny Welbeck out, you should have just left him in. Take him out late in the game, and bring in a Flamini late in the game or something for more defensive help. Um, but what can you do? But again, like when your midfield is that bad, you can't win the game. You simply can't win the game when your midfield is that bad. It's nothing against Mesut Ozil, nothing against Welbeck, nothing against the back four, even Coughlin. Just all the midfield was to blame for this entire loss. And now, spuds are in front of us. We're going to be sitting in what, fifth or sixth place after this weekend. Uh, I know we have a good run of fixtures of games, easy games. But again, a game like this, we should have won. We needed to take 3 points out of this. We needed to take 3 points and really make our mark and say, what, we're back. We're playing well. We're in form, and what, we're gonna raise hell for the rest of the season. But it just kind of sucks. It really does. Uh, some guys need to uh, get back into the training ground and start taking shit seriously, especially in Aaron Ramsey. Forget about the off-field crap, the off-the-pitch stuff, like modeling and doing interviews and all that other shit. Get back to what we were doing last year. Get back to the basics, because his game is all fucked up. And, he needs to get back to basics again. He needs to get back to making the right pass, making the right decisions, being confident in himself, being confident in his passes, because he hasn't been like that for a while. And, I know he just came back from injury, but still, even when you come back from injury, you can't be that poor and play. But again, too, that's on the manager as well. And, I know we got Leicester coming up on Tuesday. Um, Hopefully Alexis Sanchez will be, fit and ready to go. I know if we had him for, this game, it would definitely would have been a different story. I think, especially with his tenacity, his ability to, his on the ball ability, his passing ability. Just having that type of player on the pitch to gives you that extra like inspiration and motivation and to do better. And we need that guy back, obviously, and we need to start figuring out what our best starting 11 is. I know Jack is due back for this week. He's been in training this whole time, obviously, but I guess he's going to be fit and ready to go possibly next weekend. Uh, so we need to start figuring out who our best starting 11 is, and we need to start pushing forward. Um, if Aaron Ramsey, if we need to sit him down for a while, good. Sit him down. If we need to start Rosicky at that spot, let's do that. This is the first game that first bad game Santi's had in probably about 2 months, and he really chose the wrong time to have a bad game. Um, So I guess maybe you can give him a little bit of a pass, but again, this is a North London derby. You have to play your best. You have to play your A game to win this. Yeah, you can win ugly, but at the same time, you can't play that poorly. You can't play that poorly in North London derbies and expect to win. So on to Tuesday. Hopefully, we you know vent some of our frustrations out on Leicester and we get back to our winning ways because we need to because the season's getting shorter and shorter as the weeks go on. And that top four is we can't let that fade away. This was our opportunity. This was our opportunity to really distance ourselves from Spurs, Liverpool, all those guys that are really, they still think they're, still have a chance at that top four, that final Champions League spot. And we need to get our heads straight. We need to get our heads in the game. Again, like I said, playing defensive is okay, but not to the point where you suffocate yourself and you kill yourself. And today we killed ourselves, unfortunately.